I genuinely recommend everyone to master copywriting. But what's really interesting is that you really don't need to do that anymore. And I say it with almost like sadness in a way, because you can now get away with not knowing copy. And like what I mean by that is now there's enough automation and software and artificial intelligence for you to write your copy for you, but you still need to have an understanding of what good copy is. So yes, I do want you to have at least surface level knowledge of copywriting and in principle how it's supposed to work, without having the skill, the language skills that I personally actually honed over the years, right? A lot of people tell me that they approach me and they say, well, it's not my English is not my first language, how can I write in English? Well, I wrote a lot and I read a lot and watched a lot of movies in English. So just by through practice I improved. But you're now stepping into a scene where the AI is so powerful that you really don't need to know all that much. You can get in with quote unquote broken English, or Borat English, as my mentor used to call me. And
Mm.
you can basically just know how to use the software correctly. But again, this is where we're going. So I assume within the next 6 to 12 months, this is exactly where we're going to be. Um, Until then, yes, read books on copywriting and read great copy. Start off with the Gary Halbert letter. It's free. You can find it at either garyhalbert.com or garyhalbertletter.com. It's great education, but it's also great writing. Gary Halbert, his writing is amazing. Gary Halbert, John Carlton, Dan Kennedy, read their writing, and automatically you'll become a much better copywriter. But here's what I will tell you though: the quality of your expression in English will not depend on the word choice. You don't have to use big words, right? What you will have to do is you'll have to master some other principles of persuasion that are analogies and metaphors, visual words or word pictures, and you'll need to understand human psychology. So if your English level is basic, but your understanding of human psychology is relatively advanced or moderate, you will be an amazing copywriter. In fact, if you're like, you won't even have to write your copy yourself. You'll just have to enter the right parameters into the software that's available today, such as ChatGPT, and then it will produce the copy for you. It's amazing. What I've done is, as you guys, some of you know, maybe some of you don't, but I tend to create comic books for my kids. I basically tried to create educational comic book material where my children are the heroes of the comic book. It's completely custom comic book, and as the character in it, I take them through a journey to teach them a lesson. So, for example, the first one that I built was where my daughter Erica, she is the superhero that saves all the birds in the city because three guys steal the birds. And of course, if we don't have the birds, the nature will suffer. So she goes on to save the day using a little bit of superpowers and a lot of brain power. So kind of like, teaching her to be thinking outside the box. She's taken on three big guys, all adults, and she still tricks them into submission. So this process requires me to figure out the comic book idea, then to actually write out the entire comic book script and panels, and then to draw the thing and to print it. Now, I'm not an artist. I can't draw like a comic book, but I know how to work with text. And what I've done over the years is I hired writers to write the comic book, but I would kind of observe and watch that project and make sure that it's up to my standard, right? But this time around, I've had this idea for about a year now, and I didn't take action. I couldn't find a writer. So I sat down and I created a detailed outline of what happens in the comic book. I didn't write the comic book. I just said, okay, scene one, this happens. Then Chris enters room. Chris is my son and Erica is my daughter. Then Chris says this and Erica does this. So kind of like just trying to imagine a 10-minute little movie in my mind. And then I took this outline and fed it to a software, AI, artificial intelligence. And look, it basically wrote the entire comic book. Okay, so now I just take this comic book script and I take it to an artist that takes it and makes the visuals for it, and I've got my book. Now, do you want to guess how long it took me to have that script done? So outline and script together, done, start to finish. 90 minutes. In 90 minutes, I basically spent half of that time doing the outline, then the other half of that time trying to adjust, feeding the outline to the AI, because AI still can't really process tons of information. So I had to do it in chunks, and it slowed me down. But basically, I didn't have to write the dialogue. I didn't have to do anything. I just kind of gave it the AD and the parameters, said, okay, we're writing a comic book. These are the characters: Erica, Chris, Mom. This is what's happening. Here's the outline. Now go write me the comic book with panels and dialogue, and it just fills the gaps, and it really does a good job. I only had to go in and tweak a few sentences. The rest it did really well. So that's the level to which we're going towards, and I think in 5 years we won't really have copywriters anymore. We'll have people who know how to work with AI and to prompt it to write copy, because even today, like I would say at least 30% of the online articles that you're reading on blogs are produced by AI. Yeah. And it does a much better job writing those articles than the people you would hire on Upwork.